In the absence of the village clerk or village president, I will call the meeting of November 4th to order with roll call. Nyla Fry. Here. Trisha Brown. Here. Sam Kaufman.
Here.
Kristen Runge. Aaron Moran. Here. Joe Zisselsberger.
Here.
And Robert McPherson.
Here.
I would entertain a motion to have nominations for a chair of the meeting in absence of the village president.
I move that Sam Kaufman chair the meeting.
In a second.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Okay, with that, confirmation of open meeting compliance.
Whoa.
Sorry, did the motion pass there?
No, we have-
We have a 3-3 vote.
Oh, we have a 3-3 vote here. Oh, I'm sorry.
Abstained effectively means no, so,
I motion to nominate Joe Zisselsberger to chair tonight's meeting.
I'll second that also.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries.
All right, then we'll move on. Did you do confirmation of open meeting compliance? I do not believe so.
I will do that now.
Thank you.
I can confirm that the draft agenda was published in the Waunakee Tribune on 11/1. The final agenda was posted in all 3 official posting locations on 10/31, and the final agenda and packet were made available online on 10/31. Just 2 quick announcements for the audience. Please be sure you've signed in with your accurate municipality and address with your name for record keeping. And those interested in participating in public comment or public hearing tonight, please fill out the form and give it to me prior to that agenda item.
All righty, we'll move on to public comment. Specifically, there's public comment on the 2025 Village of Waunakee budget, but as well as
Yeah,
anything.
you might
else
want
that's-
to, you want to start with open, general comments first on items on or off the agenda except for budget.
Probably makes
Okay.
sense if we, yeah, I don't know if we've got anything.
So I only have 1 comment card and I do have. You're right. Those are
Is-
in.
Is it related to the budget? Okay, so Renee is prepared to give a presentation prior to your public comments on the budget. So I guess if it's okay, let's make 1 additional call for public comments other than the budget.
Yep.
Okay, I see 1 person in attendance online. If you do want to participate in public comments, just click raise hand and I can bring you in to speak.
Not seeing anything
Yeah.
there. And just to confirm, yours is on the budget. It's not something else. Okay. All right, then we'll move on to Renee's
There-
presentation.
I did get an email from a resident throughout the day regarding public comment in support. And I apologize that I did not get a chance to print it off.
Is this budget related or otherwise?
I don't know, because,
Oh.
here it is. This is regarding, the public comment is from Krista Schmelke. And it's for, I would love to show support for the 60/40 WNC Village Translator Interpreter. Okay.
Okay, Renee?
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Hopefully that's,
Don't worry, we're not prepping for the whole 2-hour spiel again.
no, this is just a few slides to give a little update. Oh, guess I have a little pop there. Okay. So, just to remind people where we are in the process. Last meeting, we were on the 4th bullet, on October 21st for the longer presentation. Again, not trying to recreate that tonight by any means. So tonight, I have it kind of red italicized there. We're doing our additional non-required public hearing, which is really technically public comment, to give another opportunity for the public to weigh in before the public hearing, which will take place on November 18th. Not too much has changed on some of our unknowns. We did receive the MATC levy last week. They're showing an increase of their levy of 4.27%. But remember, that doesn't necessarily translate into what will be on the tax bills for MATC because there have been changes in the assessed values and things like that. But we have that one. And then we are expecting the school district by next week. I believe that is their statutory deadline. And the county, I noticed that they adopted theirs last week, but we have not received the notice yet for the county's levy. So we should have all of those pieces of information for the November 18th meeting. So there was a little bit of a movement in a good way, I think, in terms of the tax rate. And I'll go over kind of why these numbers changed in a couple slides, but the assessed rate is increasing but by not as much as what I presented at the last meeting. So it's going up 2.66%. And at the last meeting, I showed it was going to go up 3.63%. So about a percentage point lower on that assessed tax rate. And the equalized rate is decreasing, but by a greater amount, decreasing by 2.89% versus 1.98% last time. Again, we'll talk about that more in a minute. The budgetary outcomes, really the changes in the tax for some of the different assessed values. For every 100,000, we're projecting a $13 increase. That's down a little bit, $5 from where we were last time, which was an $18 increase. So the bottom line there, if you had a $500,000 home and it didn't change in value since last year, your tax bill for the village share would be going up $65 versus at the last meeting, it was $90. So what has changed in the budget since October 21st? So we had a small increase to the tax levy of about $13,000. That was due to changes that came out of our open enrollment period. We actually added a couple people to our health insurance, and just a couple people made changes and actually took the family reimbursement account that the village approved. But that wasn't enough to offset the people that we added to our insurance. And then the payroll budget spreadsheet, I just went back through it and tweaked it a little bit because some of the positions that didn't have a person actually hired for that position. Now that we know who's hired and what insurance they're taking, I did some refinement there. So the net of all that was about $13,000. But the thing that helped the tax rate was we were actually able to decrease the tax levy for a couple different reasons. So I was able to apply additional debt service fund balance. So when we did our 2024 borrowing, we actually borrowed at a premium, and that money was to be used to offset the first interest payment that we'll be making in 2025. And I had not included that amount the first go around. So that was the big chunk. I also did a little tweaking to the TID admin fees that we charge the TIDs. We were pretty low, and one of the finance committee members reached out to me and said we should maybe look at those again. And so we increased the fee that we charge to the TIDs to $1,500 per year per TID. And that includes staff time, primarily myself, who does a lot of the reporting, Todd and Lauren, and then also during the audit, they have to do work on the TID funds. And so that's kind of another piece that factors into that. So that gave us another $5,000 that we could decrease the levy by. And then as I was looking through some of the assigned fund balances that we were going to be applying for community development initiatives, I had not included some things that we budgeted in 2024 that will also be able to be carried forward. I only had pulled in the 2023 numbers, and that's the things for like the visioning and some of those other initiatives. So our overall net decrease to the tax levy is about 133,000. Todd, I think you're going to
Yeah.
take this one.
The board had some really good discussion at our last meeting about the proposal to support the creation of a professional position supporting Create Waunakee, Inc. A couple things I worked on together with members of the Create Waunakee, Inc. board, two of whom are here, Edgar Steenwinkle and Ronna Neri. Thank you for joining us, and we may call on you to chime in. And if we do, please go up to the microphone and push the button so it's green. What's that?
Would say no, right? I mean, I think you guys need to make your presentation, then public comment, then we can move this agenda item up and then they can.
Okay. Well, I'll let you know when you can participate, if you wish to participate. That's called the attorney kicking the administrator under the table, or a version of it. So two things I worked on together with them. One was to make a few updates to the job description for the position. And included in your packet is that position with 3 highlighted sections. You probably saw that in your packet where they made some tweaks, and I can call out what those adjustments were. If I get to the right spot. Okay. They included an item about generating revenue through programming events and grants and donations to sustain it and grow the organization and its personnel costs. Essentially a reference to kind of some of the self-sustaining function of the position. Also to compile participation data, revenues, expenses, and program metrics in an annual report that would be presented to the village board and others once annually. And finally, to call out that a qualified candidate should include grant writing experience. So those adjustments were made to the job description. And then if you look at the screen, we did our best to take a stab at a 3-year outlook to what a budget for Create Waunakee, Inc. with this new position would look like. Obviously, there were a variety of assumptions we made, and certainly there's some blanks in there as well. But what we wanted to show is that even without additional grants or unexpected donations, we see this position being sustained at least for 3 years with a couple elements of participation on the village's side to support it, even with sort of an easing out of tax support. So I added there's a room tax column in there. The village has about $9,000 to $10,000 of expected undesignated room tax dollars that we're going to be receiving this year. So with the thought and hope that we'll continue to see increased room usage or perhaps another hotel in the village's future, I project use of room tax for support towards Create Waunakee. And that offsets the levy support that's suggested next year of $25,000. And it offsets that equally and shifts that contribution to room tax as opposed to levy. With that said, even if next year's village board decides that they don't want to support Create Waunakee with a single dollar of funding, which I hope won't be the case, but if it is, looking at the end of year Create Waunakee fund balance at 32,000, there would still be an anticipated revenues enough to support at least 2 years of operation. And that's again, without any grant seeking or donations, and a modest entry into membership participation, and then some expected event revenue in the 2nd year of this new position's creation. So that is, we wanted to take a stab at, I think the question was, we don't want to set this up for failure without the thought that there could be some sustaining effort involved. And we believe that this is a proposal on how we can accomplish that.
And I should have said at the beginning, there is an agenda item to actually have discussion on the budget after, we get through the public comments and everything. So, so we can always go back to these slides if we need to. So the last slide really is just a reminder of that change in the levy. If we add or subtract $10,000, just a rule of thumb. And then this would be where we would want to take those public comments. Except Brian's raising.
No,
his
I'm
hand.
on my way to you now.
Okay, so that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Renee. So we'll open up public comment. And
And I have one for Linda Ashmore at 114 South Street, Waunakee.
okay. And Linda, you know the deal, but make sure the green light's green. Thank you.
I'm here to comment about the budget. And first of all, I'd like to thank Renee and department heads for putting together something that's understandable to somebody who doesn't do budgets all the time. You can tell where the money's going. And I'm here to speak in favor of one of the things in the budget, which is the WNC 60/40 position. It's really hard to be in a country where the language isn't your first language. We've done a lot of traveling this year. We've been fortunate to do that. And just as a tourist, it's like, wow, I don't know French. And so to actually be able to, figure out government forms and how to navigate everything, I think this is going to be a wonderful thing, addition for both WNC and for the village. So I'm strongly in support of that. I am in opposition to the $40,000 that's in the budget for WaunaBoom. When WaunaBoom started, it was supposed to be funded by donations. And then it started to be, well, $10,000 from the village. And I think the last 2 years, it was $30,000 in the budget. And I just think that money could go towards like a halftime position, roads, other things, instead of what I see as kind of throwing up a nice community party, but I don't know if tax dollars should be throwing the party. And if the village does stay with WaunaBoom, I'd like them to look at a greener alternative to the fireworks, that a lot of communities have gone to drones. And if we're going to put the money in there, let's try to make it more sustainable. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. And there was an email as well.
There was an email and I apologize for not getting that out to you all sooner, but I did go ahead and forward that to you as well, but I would be happy to read it. Again, so it's from Krista Schmelk. Sorry if I butchered that. And it says, I would love to show my support for the 60/40 WNC Village Translator Interpreter. Thank you.
I don't know her exact address, but she lives near the library. So we'll.
And I've requested that, so
Okay.
Okay,
we'll get that for the record.
thank you. Anybody online?
I see one person online, but I believe she is our new Tribune reporter. So hi, Ellie, I see you there, and I assume you don't have any public comments, but if you do, click raise hand now.
Not seeing any? Okay.
Correct.
So we will wrap up public comment then. Move on to the consent agenda. Would anybody like anything pulled, or I'll look for a motion?
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay,
I'll
got a motion.
second.
Motion by Sam, second by Nyla. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We passed the consent agenda. On to reports and announcements. The WaunaBoom Committee, I think, is only Kristen. So hold off on that. CDA,
I can give that if you want.
yeah, that'd be great.
That we only had one agenda item at our last meeting, and it was to review the redevelopment plan for the property that we'll be discussing later in our agenda with the recommendation to approve.
Okay.
To the board to approve.
Thank you. And Waunakee Area Fire District.
Fire District met last Monday. We discussed the study. We've come up with some initial ideas that we are going to break up the changes to the study, much like we did with the EMS changes. So when we come back next month, each municipality is expected to have some red line changes to the agreement for updating it for modern era. We also had extensive, no action taken, but extensive discussion about representation of the village to the fire district and the need for the village to have more control over its fate when it comes to funding with the fire district.
Thank you. On to utilities. I'll give that one. Let's see. We considered the capital budget and passed that. Looked at bids for some sewer main lining and passed that. Approved hiring an electric superintendent and substation, considered, let's see here. We approved hiring the electric superintendent and the substation metering technician. I believe we approved going forward with that one as well. I'd have to go back and verify. And then the other things, we just looked over village-wide construction projects, heard the operations report and got an update on the new potential well 6. That was that one. Other committees, boards or commissions that have happened?
I did have a hockey board meeting last week. The primary purpose of that was to review the past year's operating budgets and results and budget moving forward. All good. Good year for them.
Okay, excellent. Any other announcements?
President Runge and I attended the League of Wisconsin Municipalities annual conference week and a half ago. We got to see Todd have a good presentation with representative from the Ho-Chunk Nation, I'm blanking on his name.
Ryan Greendeer.
Ryan Greendeer, thank you. And had some ideas. I think I'd asked Todd if we can maybe have someone from the league come out and maybe talk to us about some of those items that we have struggled a bit as a board with strategic planning and how to approach onboarding new trustees and things like that, things that would just help make it better for everybody in the future.
Great items. Thank you. All right, that'll wrap up reports and announcements. We'll move on to the public hearing. It's a public hearing and discussion and action on the following related items applicable to the property at 205 South Klein Drive. This would be a resolution declaring the property to be a blighted area in need of redevelopment. A redevelopment plan for the property, which the plan is attached to the resolution, declares the property a blighted area in need of redevelopment and contains other criteria required by Wisconsin Statute 66.1331 5B2. And an application of the Village of Waunakee to be filed with the United States Environmental Protection Agency to obtain a Brownfield Cleanup Grant related to the property, which draft application includes a draft analysis of the Brownfield cleanup alternatives. That was a lot.
It is. And so what this all pertains to is certain steps that the village would take if the village is going to choose to acquire the former Waunakee property. And so here we have a public hearing on really 3 items, all of which, well, 2 of which are required by the statutes if we're going to acquire the property and deem it blighted. So we have a resolution that really kind of walks through what we're doing. And we have a redevelopment plan. So the public hearing is on the redevelopment plan. That is addendum B to the resolution. And then as part of this, if the village is going to acquire the property, what has been contemplated is the filing of a grant application with the United States Environmental Protection Agency. And that process also requires a public hearing. So all 3 items are ultimately related to potentially acquiring the former Waunakee property and then seeking grant funding for its remediation. If you look at the resolution that starts on page 41 of your packet, that really kind of walks through the statutory steps. In other words, it identifies the statutes that gives the village the authority to acquire the property and to have it remediated. As Tricia mentioned, we did take the necessary steps at the CDA at the last meeting, and the appropriate recommendations were made essentially at the CDA meeting. The CDA recommended to the village board that it adopt this resolution, that it adopt the redevelopment plan that's attached to the resolution, and that it declare the property to be blighted. If the board moves forward with this resolution, Essentially what we're doing is three things. We're designating the property boundaries, and in this case, it would just be the property at 205 South Klein Drive that would be the project area for purposes of the resolution. We then have a report that is attached to the resolution. I think I maybe misspoke. The redevelopment plan is addendum A to the resolution. The report that was prepared back in April of 2021 is addendum B, and that declares, provides the evidence and the documentation as to why we would declare this property to be blighted in need of remediation. I would note that there has been some additional work that's been done since April of 2021. That report, though, was just completed as part of kind of what we're going through right now in the grant application. It would provide further support for the board if it felt necessary. I think at a stat level, we believe the April 2021 report in and of itself is sufficient to declare the property blighted. But so essentially what we would do is we would hold a public hearing, see if anybody has comments regarding the blight determination, the resolution, the plan, and the village's desire, the potential for filing a grant application. Once the public hearing is closed, then you would have the opportunity as a board to obviously ask us questions. We can go through the resolution, the two addendums to the resolution. I would note that we have another agenda item on later tonight where there's a potential agreement with Summit Credit Union that's in your packet. I would just to kind of, even though this is not part of the public hearing, just to give you a heads up, your staff's position, I think, is going to be, we're going to want to convene in closed session when that agenda item comes up and then reconvene into open session to take action. We are certainly prepared to move forward with these public hearing action items as soon as the public hearing is closed. But you obviously, if you want to wait until the end, until you have a chance to have the closed session discussion on the agreement, you can choose to act on these other items at the end of the meeting.
All right, thank you, Brian.
One quick note, I'll just mention that we do have several of our consultants with us tonight on Zoom. That includes Vanessa Weishart from Brian's firm, who specializes in environmental matters, has been helping us, along with Logan Seipel and Scott Wilson from Ayers Engineering, who've been helping us as well. I would also note that I see Kristen Runge is now in as an attendee. I'm trying to find out if she wants to just watch or wants to be brought in as a meeting participant. So maybe Kristen, if you want to. Oh, I'm going to let her in right now. So Kristen is about to join us. But Joe, obviously, our policy states that you can't chair remotely.
Yep.
So you'll still continue in that role.
Okay. All right, given all of that at, let's see, 6:31, let's open the public hearing. Is there any comments?
I don't have any comment cards.
No specific emails, I would assume. And anyone else online?
Yeah, call for a raised hand online if you wish to participate in the hearing on this item. Nope.
Okay. Going once, going twice. All right, we will close the public hearing. And I guess let's start on the far end with Nyla. Any questions?
I think that this is a good proposal from what I've seen. I think there's discussion that we will be having later, but there is a definite need to get the site cleaned up. And I think what we're looking at doing is probably the best method of doing it.
Great, thank you. Tricia?
No, I agree. I think I was able to participate obviously in the conversation and the review at the Community Development Authority. And I think regardless of the next steps, this is a very first required step in any remediation that's going to hopefully involve some federal support to mitigate. So, no other questions?
Okay, thank you. Sam?
Certainly in concurrence with what others have said, clearly we're in consensus here that the property needs to be cleaned up.
All right, Erin?
Yeah, just a big thank you to everyone that worked on the application. It was very thorough and I thought it was really well written. I honestly really enjoyed reading it. I feel like I learned a lot. And I just thought it really put the project in a great light.
All right. Robert?
Time is of the essence because we know that we may not have access to these funds if we wait too long. So I'm looking forward to taking some sort of action tonight.
Agreed. And Kristen?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody who worked on this and put this together in enough time or with enough time to allow us to hopefully get these federal funds. So thank you. I'm in full support of it.
All righty.
So again, at a staff level, we're certainly comfortable moving forward with, there's two separate motions on page 40 of your document. If you want to move forward on the resolution, which again, the resolution incorporates the redevelopment plan and has the statutory findings that we need to have. And then the second motion relates to the grant application. So if you're comfortable moving forward, I think we certainly can do that now, and then we can address the agreement later. At the same time, if you would prefer to wait to have our closed session agenda on the agreement item and then come back and act on essentially everything on the agenda that relates to this property later in the meeting, you can certainly delay the two motions that are on page 40 of the packet at this time.
Okay. Yes, Nyla.
I would like to delay until we get more in depth later on this evening.
Okay. Is that a motion to?
I don't think you actually need to
Table?
make a motion. I mean, it's more of a
Hold on.
consensus issue, but I mean, at the same time, if you want to, because you're going to take action at the same meeting, and you've already addressed this agenda item, this is just essentially waiting to get more information on the overall project, I would say.
Okay,
But again, you don't have to wait either. I mean, it's really up to you all.
sure. Did you have a?
No, Brian
No.
and I just don't agree on Robert's rules all the time.
Oh.
That's kind of where I
Hey,
was going as well.
And if
but-
you guys want to make a motion to address the public hearing items after agenda item, business item 5, certainly feel free to make the motion. I mean, because I think everybody's probably going to go along with it.
I will move with what you said.
All right, we've got
Second.
got a motion by Nyla, a second by Aaron. All those in favor?
Yeah.
Hi.
Opposed? And that motion carries. So we'll pick that back up at the end. All right, on to business item number 1, discuss and take action on a contract with Core and Main for Inframap Asset Management Platform. I believe that would be Lauren.
Yeah, so the Village and Waunakee utilities have been utilizing Asset Ally for Bruckert Mielke since at least 2018. I think it actually goes back farther than that, but that's the date I know for certain for online and mapping and asset management. We've proposed in the 2025 budget, moving more toward ArcGIS Online as an online mapping system, but we would still need an asset management system, and that's where the Inframap system from Core and Main comes in, and that's where we keep our records for maintenance to infrastructure, for water, sewer, trees, stormwater, just pretty much anything in the community that we keep records on for infrastructure purposes or for property purposes. It goes into the asset management system. And we looked at a couple different options. This one was the best cost-wise for short-term and long-term, and fits within the budget that was proposed for next year. So of the roughly $20,000 total, 11,520 of it will be for the village, which are paid for with funds already included in the 2025 budget. The remaining 8,520 would be reimbursed by Waunakee Utilities.
Okay, thank you. We'll start on the other end this time around. So Kristen?
I am really looking forward to having our GIS capability more functional within our own offices. So I'm in support of this and I'm looking forward to seeing it done.
Okay, Robert?
I asked Lauren what she needed when I met with her the first time after she had been hired, and this is one thing she said, and I said, great, let's get it. So I mean, better mapping system. I think some of us have tried to use what we have out there now, and it can be frustrating with fighting against it. So if this makes it easier, I think it's good.
I'll just chime in here that I had asked Lauren a question earlier about how the data from the Inframap system could actually end up in ArcGIS, and sounds like that is a manual import, but absolutely doable. So I'm totally in support of this as well. Aaron?
Yeah, I'm in support of this and I'm excited for you guys that use it day to day.
Sam?
ArcGIS is far more user friendly and we should have had it a long time ago.
Yeah, I agree. One question. I know this is a lot for the infrastructure. Was there any conversation about building permits being incorporated into this in the future as well?
Building permits, we're doing through, Optimize, is that what it's called?
Correct.
Through Optimize, which is the Civic Plus
Oh.
system that we approved a few months ago.
Cool.
But we're moving to that from what our current system is.
Awesome.
Okay, Nyla?
I think this will be a good tool, and from my understanding, this will be used across many departments to make life easier for many, so I'm for it.
All right. Sounds like we are in pretty much in agreement. Do we have a motion?
A motion to approve the contract from Core and Maine for $20,040 for InfraMap Asset Management System and allow the Community Development Director to execute the contract.
Second.
All right, motion by Robert and second by Sam. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we will pass that one as well. On to business item number 2, discuss and take action on the creation of a buildings and facilities crew member position. Jared.
Takes me a minute here to tear that up.
Okay.
All right, good evening. So what we have here tonight is one of two similar items related to the buildings and facilities and the public works. The first one here is regarding building and facility crew member position. We currently do not have a buildings and facilities crew member position. We have public works crew member positions. We do have a vacancy with our buildings and facilities. We did recently hire the manager for that position who oversees all those functions. That was a new position here in 2024. Previously, sort of the highest positions in that function were our buildings facilities supervisors, one who is stationed at the Village Center and one who's stationed at the library. Our former buildings and facilities supervisor at the library has resigned, creating a vacancy. With our new buildings and facilities manager here on staff, as we were discussing, Bill and I and Eric at the library and with Todd, and with Jeff Witt, our new buildings and facilities manager, we believe that the more effective and cost-effective solution would be to, instead of recruiting for the supervisor position, recruiting for a new position, the buildings and facilities crew member. So it'd be on par with our public works crew. That would be on grade H9 of our pay scale instead of grade H13. So cutting to the chase, essentially what we're looking at is about an average savings from wages ranging from $13,300 to $15,400, depending upon where that person would be hired. So happy to entertain any questions.
All right, thank you, Jared. Let's start with Sam.
You know, when we hired Jeff, one of the concerns that we had as a board was that we were putting a lot of responsibilities on that position, which is why it took us so many rounds of interviews to hire for that person. So it makes perfect sense that we would have somebody who would be able to support Jeff in that position so he can have a good work-life balance too.
Excellent. Tricia?
No, I appreciate that when a vacancy is created, that instead of just automatically replacing it, that it's some thought has been put into how to better leverage the open position and the funding to serve the needs that they have. So no, I think it's great.
All right, Nyla?
I agree with both Sam and Tricia, and the other thing is I'm glad that they always look at the position instead of just hiring, like she said. But also the other thing is we need to stay on top of having the crews that we need and the workers as the village grows. It's important that we keep pace with what's needed so we aren't falling behind.
Excellent, thank you. Aaron?
No, I agree. It's great to pivot and adjust when opportunities are.
Robert?
This might be a question more for Bill, but do we know at what point, so I support of this, but do we know at what point we would need to hire like a second person after this first person? Like, is it based off how many buildings the village has?
Actually, we talked about some of that. We'll have a better idea on probably next year's budget cycle, or even the year after that. Because there's a lot coming on. Obviously, the police station's getting remodeled, so that's going to be additional work.
Yeah.
And we've taken on this building, the utilities and public works building. So Oh, we're hoping within a year we'll have a better way of answering that.
Okay, because we would also potentially be the owners of another piece of real estate across the street and yeah, I'm just trying to think for future at what point we would need to have another person, but if you guys are already talking about that, then that's fine.
Yeah, and everything you mentioned, we've
Okay,
already got on our radar.
okay.
Excellent. Kristen?
Yeah, I'm in agreement and support with it.
All right. And I will just say, thank you to everyone who was involved with this. It's great to see that there was analysis rather than just, immediately replacing a position. It's shows smart growth. So with that, I'll look for a motion.
I'll move to approve the creation of the buildings and facilities crew member position and that it be placed on the grade H9 of the village schedule.
I'll second it.
All right, motion by Tricia and second by Nyla. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes as well. Thank you. On to number 3, which I think is also Jared here. It's discuss and take action on amending the Public Works Crew Lead position description, title, and adjustment on the wage scale.
Okay. Yep, so the second item here is related to our Public Works Crew Lead position. This is a position that is sort of in between our Public Works crew and our Public Works Supervisor, which is Ryan Endress is our supervisor, Jeff Carls is our crew lead. Jeff Carls, who is our current crew lead, has completed his arborist certification and training, so now he serves in that capacity for the village as our arborist. And so we're looking to adjust his job description to more properly reflect those duties and responsibilities, and the draft job description is in the packet with those changes highlighted. But with that, we're also proposing a commensurate change to his position on the pay scale. So currently, he's on grade H11. We think with the arborist duties added to this, we feel the most appropriate move is to move him up to the H13 scale. So when you run all the numbers, looking at where he's at and when step increases are due, and if like a COLA is, which is proposed in the budget, if that's adopted with the 3%, we'd be looking at a budget impact of approximately $7,300 for 2025.
All right, thank you, Jared. Let's start with Aaron.
I think this is another great opportunity. It's great that we can recognize staff growth, and seems like an awesome new step for us.
All right, thank you. I'll just say congrats to Jeff on his arborist certification. I think that's fantastic. And this seems to be right in line with where we should be heading. Robert?
Also congratulations, Jeff, because I remember when he was starting to work on it, I think when I met with Bill. So that's good to see. Does he know we want more trees then if he's going to be doing this? All right, I'm all for this.
All right, Kristen?
Yeah, kudos to Jeff for completing the arborist certification. It's really nice that we're able to offer that service, take care of our trees.
All right, Nyla?
Yeah, I think it's great that Jeff has taken it further and got this certification. And I know that as our employees increase their skills and grow, that we want to compensate them accordingly because we want to keep our good employees.
All right, Tricia?
Yep, ditto everybody else. And again, kudos to Jeff.
I think we should be very appreciative that our village staff continues to encourage and incentivize professional development for all of our staff.
Excellent. All right, looking for a motion then.
Make the motion to approve the proposed amendments to the Parks Public Works Crew Lead Arborist position and adjustment from grade H11 to grade H13 on the wage schedule to take effect on January 1st, 2025.
I'll second it.
All right, motion by Sam and a second by Nyla. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, okay, we'll pass that. And move on to number 4, discuss and take action on proposed 2025 operating and capital improvement budget. This would be our discussion time.
I just wanted to say one thing before you start your discussion, is that the changes for these 2 positions that you just approved, I had already worked them into the budget. So just so you know that it's not, they don't need to be further changed. I was fingers crossed that you were gonna approve those. Otherwise I'd have to go back, but I just wanted to mention that. But yes, I had nothing more to add to the presentation part of it.
And just as a reminder, we do have the official budget public hearing scheduled, is that 18th? November 18th, following that will be the village board's final discussion and action on the budget proposal. So I think this is an opportunity for us to hear from you on what other edits, modifications, adjustments you'd like to see presented at that public hearing.
All right, and with that, start with Nyla.
I would just like a clarification. The money that is proposed for WaunaBoom, would that be, the total amount then be $40,000 in the budget, or is that an increase from something they're already receiving?
So in the 2024 budget, there was nothing budgeted for WaunaBoom. The last time something was budgeted was in 2023, 30,000 was budgeted, I think, as was mentioned earlier, but that was not spent in 2023, so that carried over, but was spent in 2024. I think at the last meeting, Kristen mentioned some increasing costs and some things that they had to tap into the funds that was originally in the budget. And that's why they were looking to add it back in.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Tricia?
No, I feel like I should have more questions, but so Renee, good job on the presentation and actually outlining some of the changes and the updates that have occurred or been incorporated since then. So at this time, I don't have any questions.
Okay, Sam?
I don't have any specific questions either. Seems good with the WNC position that we're sharing that's being proposed. I appreciate the metric that we've come up with to sort of wean off on some of the funding for the Create Waunakee position, have a plan, so it's not left hanging. So I don't have anything specific.
Erin?
Yeah, echo what everyone has said. I think I'm glad that we've kept this extra public hearing for residents to have a full month and opportunity to actually make changes before it's too late.
All right, thank you. I'll just throw mine in right here. So Renee, one of the things that I saw in your presentation talked about the levy actually going down, but yet the actual amount on a, $100,000 home is going up slightly. Can you help make sure that, that we all understand why that happens?
Yeah, I might have said that in a slightly confusing way. It went down from what I presented at the October meeting, October 21st. It's still an overall increase from last year.
Okay.
So hopefully that helps clarify.
That makes a whole lot more sense then.
Okay.
All right, Robert?
All right, I'm sorry in advance for this because I'm going to ask questions about this. Create Waunakee Incorporate position support slide has been bothering me on the math on that. So I need a consult from you, Renee, probably. You might be able to explain to me.
Should I pull it back up perhaps?
Yeah, I'm confused how the fund balance is included in the total revenues for each year on the chart.
I can help while she brings it up. This is Todd's version of math, which isn't sometimes not the normal version of math. Apparently, so the 83,413 that you see at the top of
That's the current cash on hand,
that's their current cash on hand.
but we're calling that revenues on the chart.
We're calling that.
You're including it in the math you have to be including that for like part of the revenues, right?
Yeah, well, I'm including that as a total contribution to the funding sources. So it enters into the calculation and then relates to the leftover fund balance at the very end. Essentially, it's a contribution of total funds, just like the village's tax levy of 25,000 and the village's room tax of 5,000, along with our carryover balances. So it's kind of, I guess the way I looked at it was throw all of our combined resources into the pot and play it out over the 3-year process. And what does it look like? And Renee, maybe that was the wrong way.
Well, I think you could always kind of look at it, if you drew a thicker line under the fund balance. I mean, that's where they're starting at.
Right.
They're adding to it and ending. So it's not really a revenue. I mean, he has it labeled as the fund balance.
At the end, I'm just saying, is it being included in that revenues count? Cause that would inflate the revenues because just because I have operating, it's not new money, it's.
Right,
last
it's
year's
not
money.
new money.
Right.
It's using funds on hand.
Right.
And then it goes down and then they would use what was left over the next year.
My concern why I'm getting at this is that if you remove the cash on hand from the revenues, it's actually running at a loss, it's not even or positive for how much money that would be taken in within the year.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is more of like a cash flow, showing cash on hand as it's going through, just in terminology. And I think Todd made that point when he talked about the 32,000 fund balance at the end, like if you had removed what Waunakee had contributed, that 22.5, it would still be able to move forward with in that year. Is that correct? Did I understand that?
I think so. Robert, if you sum up the funding sources, that should equal the 162,413 in total revenues, right?
But the issue I'm taking with though is that it makes it look like they're taking in more revenues than they're spending. If you just go down and you see total expenses and total revenues, I get it, but I mean, then if you look at the fund balance, you see it's shrinking every
Yeah,
year.
so it's the presentation is maybe a little bit odd. It should have been beginning fund balance. The revenues would be everything underneath that 83,000.
Right.
And then the ending fund balance. So it's, I think the math is working.
The math works. I'm just saying
Yeah.
the way it's presented,
But right,
it's a
the
little
total
misleading.
revenues
And then,
are a little bit high because it's showing that use of fund balance as a revenue.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but it's really using the fund balance they have on hand. So,
It's a good recommendation that Todd should stay in his lane.
No, I
didn't
see
really
what
know.
you're trying to do.
The
It
math
just-
works.
I don't want it, it does. I'm just saying it just appears that that it's not operating at a loss, but it is operating at a loss because, and it would in a theoretical year 4, if this continued, it would be
Right.
negative.
Yep.
So I had the concern when we discussed this the last meeting that I still don't see how this becomes sustainable. If it's still even projected to, in the year after this would be negative.
Well, I guess to that, I would say that the most important cells on this chart are the ones that don't have a number in them. And that's going to be specifically designed as task essential for the person that they hire, especially seeking contributions from other government agencies in out years, grantsmanship and donations, and then hopefully even revenues and memberships above and beyond what we proposed here, which I think is relatively conservative because I believe the gala this past year alone as a single event raised about $75,000. So yeah, there are expectations for the person hired to fill these empty cells for continued sustaining the organization.
Yeah, I feel like this chart is like the person hired. I have similar, concerns. I think we all do. We want this to be sustainable. This chart hopefully will not come true. Like hopefully there is more money generated and there are other things. I think it does lay out kind of what we were asking for last meeting of if we don't contribute, what does that look like? And how long can we contribute before we say, okay, maybe we need to pivot to a different way to support this endeavor?
I mean, I don't have a problem with the room tax being increased, and that's good use of room tax, and I would like to see more tourism driven to the village. Again, this still just, I'm still struggling with just how this looks and how it just looks like it's going to become not sustainable. I know that there's what I hear what you're saying. I absolutely hear what you're saying. It's just, it's a big risk because it's still an unknown person in the position. We still don't know who's in the position. I was also gonna ask on with the position, since I know it says benefits to be negotiated, generally I'm not sure how it is in nonprofit, but in private sector hiring, we generally are asked to add like a third of their salary back in as total cost. And 90,000 seems a bit low for all-in cost on the employee for the salary range that's given on the proposal.
Yeah, I was working off the thought that we'd be able to bring in a person in the position towards the entry zone, 70 to 75,000. That would be, I think, a target for the organization. Again, they haven't even initiated recruitment yet. And I guess I should quick say again, Edgar and Rana are here, and they helped with numbers, and if they can do a better job than I am at answering your questions, would it be okay to allow them to do it too? I don't know if. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I heard Brian.
It's up to you guys, not me.
No, that's why I'm asking as a question, because if I'm not hitting the mark on it, they might be able to do a better job.
Hi, I'm Rana Neary. I'm the Vice President for Create Waunakee Inc. I think what we are finding is that we're not sustainable right now, and that our opportunity to become sustainable would come with a hired position. The hope is, as Todd said, to really increase revenues through grants, through membership drives, through more effective event planning than can be done with volunteers alone. So, and also, you know, the expenses are sort of made up here too. We're guessing at all of that and whether they would really grow over time. You know, we're hoping that with a position where they can really dedicate themselves to this, they can both be generating new revenue and coming up with new programming. But that may happen at a different pace than what we've come up with here. This is just sort of a guess, an estimate. But we are clear as a board that we don't want to overtax a new person. We want to make sure they can get their legs under them, that they can come up with the kinds of revenues we need to make this sustainable, because we really want that more than anything. And the reason that we're seeking this is because we're feeling overwhelmed with how large the programming is and how taxing it is on volunteers alone. So we share your concern. We think that this is a good model with your help, that we can make that happen. We would want to come back to you each year and let you know how things are going. And if we see red flags and concerns, we are mindful of that too. And we're not going to keep throwing good money over after bad if things aren't working well. We think it can be, and that it will with the right person. But we would be paying attention and being good stewards of that money as a board.
All right, Robert, if you'd like, for our next budget meeting, if you'd like someone like Renee with her skills to take a better whack at this chart,
I just
You're-
want us to be
you're right.
realistic with, because I think it behooves the public to understand that like this, if they don't have changes, that it would go into the red, and that the impact could potentially be that either the village would have to come in and bail. We wouldn't want it to fail. That's my main concern here, is that I don't want there to be a perception that we give the 30,000 and they hire this person and it's great, nothing bad ever happens again. And then in 3 years, if this chart held the way it did, that they would have to come back and ask for more because we would need to be bailing it out. And people would have an opinion about that, and rightfully so, because I like the arts. I played music all through college. I think arts are great. I suck at painting, but I will say that people are quick to go after the arts. And if they see like, well, if we need to make a cut somewhere, we should just get rid of this. And I don't want that conversation to take place. So I just want to make sure it's shored up well enough that we're not having that conversation in 3 years as a community.
Joe,
If you've got another comment, please do.
I just want to add that the goal of Did it not? Oh, I pushed the button, but it didn't go. Sorry. The goal of Create Waunakee Inc. is, to really promote creativity in every form, not just visual arts or even music, but any kind of creativity. And our intention is to benefit the entire economy of the village. So not only do we not want to be a drain on resources, we want to bring in revenue for the village as a whole. And so we'll be watching that as well. And that is really what we're focused on, and that's our primary objective.
All right, thank you. And Aaron?
I completely understand what you're saying, Robert, and I think if that what if happens, then that board in 2 years has all of that evidence to say, okay, well, maybe this isn't the way we want to be supporting the arts because this isn't sustainable. But it's like, I think we have to put a little faith in what's going on and, the groundwork that's being laid and like take a leap of this is something new we can do to support all this work that so many people have done and make it sustainable to be sustainably contributing to Waunakee, but.
All right, anything else, Robert? Okay, we'll move on to Kristen then.
No comments for me. I've reviewed the budget and in agreement with everything.
All right. The only thing that I will note is I think those check-ins in future years are going to be a critical component of that because we definitely don't want to go 3 years and then go, oh my, look what happened. So doesn't look like we have any motion to take here. Any other comments from anyone? Not seeing any? Okay, so we'll move on. On to business item number 5, discuss and take action on possible acquisition of property at 205 South Klein Drive, former WaunaClean property.
So starting on page 91 of your packet is this agenda item. Included in your packet is a redlined property acquisition agreement. As is noted in the staff memo, this agreement that's in the packet contains changes made by both the village or proposed by both the village and Summit Credit Union. Effectively, certain changes are in response to the discussion that we had at the last meeting regarding the board's position on certain items. And then obviously we shared the agreement with Summit Credit Union. Summit provided some changes that it would like to see. And I think probably the most efficient way to do this is, staff recommends that we convene in closed session so that we can walk through the agreements and specifically talk about the requested changes by Summit and what staff's recommendations are. Then I think our expectation would be we would reconvene in open session. And then depending on the board's, the discussion in closed session, in all likelihood, then take action on the 2 motions that were back on the previous agenda item, and then also, potentially take action on the agreement.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? Would it still be appropriate for us to have a conversation about the redevelopment plan? I'm sorry, the application Brownfield Cleanup Plan when we reopen, or?
Yes, if you want to have it before you go into close, we certainly can, but definitely if you want to wait to effectively have that discussion until after you've heard the discussion on the agreement, then you could discuss all of the items after you reconvene in open session.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions before we move forward? So I assume I just need to read this and then roll call vote, correct?
Correct.
All right. The village board
Somebody has to make a motion, right? That we go into closed
Oh,
session.
Well, lots of times what'll happen is you guys will read it and then somebody will make the motion.
Yeah. The village board may convene in closed session as authorized by Wisconsin statute 19.851E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The village board may reconvene in open session and discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in closed session.
So you need a motion on that and then a second.
I'll move we convene in closed session.
Second.
All right, motion by Sam, second by Aaron. All those in favor?
Roll
Oh,
call.
yeah, gotta have the roll call. We never remember that.
Robert McPherson,
Yes.
Kristen Rungy,
Yes.
Trisha Brown.
Yes.
Aaron Moran,
Yes.
Joe Zisselsberger,
Yes.
Nyla Fry,
Yes.
Sam Kaufman.
Yes.
All right. And with that.
Okay, just one note in terms of logistics. So a couple things are gonna happen, and don't stop the recording yet. I just want those watching the meeting to also understand. We're gonna be ending the live stream and the current recording of the open session of this meeting. We have a separate Zoom link for Kristen and our consultants to join us for the closed session portion. When closed session is done, we're gonna go back to open session, but we won't be able to restart the online participation of the open session. Instead, we will record that portion of the meeting. We'll record it locally, and we will then attach it to the YouTube video. So subsequent watchers of the meeting will see the full stretch of the total open session, but just that last portion after closed session won't be run live. That sort of clear?
Makes sense.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
All right.
I was cackling at the recommended motion of
All right. So we are back in open session. I believe we just want to make a motion, or do we have any discussion?
Well, so the board is now reconvened into open session following a closed session discussion on the agreement, that property acquisition agreement that was included in the packet. If you recall, we also moved agenda items related to the public hearing to this point in the meeting. And so you certainly have the ability to have a discussion, if you would like, regarding the redevelopment plan and the resolution that is before you, and also the draft of the US EPA Brownfield Cleanup Grant application that starts at page 49 of your packet. To the extent that you are inclined to make motions, my thought would be to refer back to page 40 of your packet to make the motions. That there are two motions related to the public hearing items. So again, you can have a discussion and ask questions regarding the resolution and the grant, but if you're going to move forward, I would start with those motions back on page 40.
Brian, you had mentioned for the second motion for the redevelopment plan and grant application that the number 2 should be to authorize the consultants to file, or does that still remain village staff?
I mean, we're going to work with the consultant, so I would,
Okay.
I think we can keep
Making sure,
the draft if you're okay with them, we can keep the recommended motions the way that they're stated.
So ultimately, I'm the one that's going to upload the application.
Okay.
I'm getting assistance from the consultant to do so.
Okay. I will start then. I would move to approve the resolution titled Resolution pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 66.1331 related to the redevelopment property in the Village of Waunakee, which resolution includes the redevelopment plan for the property.
I'll second it.
All right. Motion by Tricia and a second by Nyla. Any additional discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes.
I continue on and move to authorize village staff to file the Brownfield Cleanup Grant with the United States Environmental Protection Agency, which application includes a draft analysis of brownfield cleanup alternatives.
Second.
Second. Go ahead, Sam.
All right. Motion by Tricia and a second by Sam. Any additional discussion on that one?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Robert.
So hearing a lot about how when we put in the grant and we say we're going to do what's in the grant, correct? Like we have to follow what's in the grant. In project involvement, it was just not really highlighted in there, but we're going to give the property when we remediate it to Create Waunakee to use.
So, I mean, I guess I don't I didn't work on the grant application. so-
I'm not looking, I saw,
Oh,
sorry.
Oh, yeah, let's let, Scott, do you want to talk about, our approach to information in there? Obviously keeping in mind we're in open session.
Yep, understood. So, we had, our team had discussions about, because I've done a lot of these EPA grants, and the EPA reviewers want to know is like, okay, we're gonna give you this money to clean it up. What's your plan? What are you gonna do with it? And this is kind of a unique case. You know, we spent a couple hours talking about a lot of the unique attributes of this thing, that the village is stepping up to do the right thing. So you didn't have time to really kind of plan for redevelopment like many other brownfield projects involved. This one is different. So this was a strategy on my part, is to be able to find something that captures the attention of the reviewers, that, you know, we have something in mind. And now we're not married to this thing. So if you get the grant, and what I wrote up about Create Waunakee, they don't want to go there for whatever reason, or you don't want them to go there, they're not going to take their money back. That won't matter. But I wanted to have some kind of a story that made sense, that, you know, you could maybe make use of this building, because it's not a tear down. This building has some life left in it. The site will be cleaned up presumably in time, and that we could put something in there that benefits your community. I heard a lady speak earlier about the artisan economy, making your economy stronger. That's a really good, strong narrative to put in the grant. You know, again, kind of like you're not married to it. So if things change, they get that, but it's better than not having any kind of a plan, because I think the grant narrative falls on its face and say, well, we want a lot of money to clean it up, but we don't really know what we're going to do. That's a hard story to sell. But if we got a story that makes sense, and you may choose to do it because I thought it was a good story, but if later in time, after you get the grant, that parties don't want to go in there, or you don't want them to go in there, that's okay too. They're not going to take their money. So that kind of evolved from me, because I was trying to figure out what's a good development that I think will resonate with the reviewers. And I think it was a sound argument.
Yeah, and at a staff level, we toyed with a variety of opportunities for nonprofit engagement with the property, as opposed to simply saying, we'll put it on the market and sell it for the best price, and who knows what company might. Well, I mean, that's an option. It's also an option for the village to sit on it, leave it empty for the short term, with the thought that sometime, say 15 years down the road, this whole quadrant of the village might be up for redevelopment, at which point we could assemble it. But obviously, we don't really have that sense of a story yet.
No.
So what we tossed around a number of thoughts for nonprofit use or reuse.
I mean, by the time it finishes, walk with me on this slightly, by the time it finishes, the rest being remediated, we'll have finished the comp plan theoretically. And I mean, you look at what some surrounding municipalities are doing, and they're land banking a little bit, some of this stuff. So I just, while I don't have a problem on the face, I'm going to get crucified by Create Waunakee by all the questions I'm asking tonight, but I don't have a problem with that. It's just, it seemed a little hidden in there, like, oh, we're going to give it to Create Waunakee, because we hadn't discussed it really openly before.
I found out through reading the application, so it's not
Oh, no, I didn't.
I know,
think you did.
I'm just saying, like, I was just as surprised as you.
I
so.
think a point of clarification, though, is that we wouldn't be giving it to Create Waunakee. It's sort of like the old library, that the village would still be in ownership of the building, of the parcel, but would allow it to be used by Create Waunakee for that purpose.
The old library that was supposed to get sold, that was a part of the funding plan for the library, and that fell through because of the deed restriction that was upon it from the school district. So I wouldn't make it an apples to apples comparison.
More space for the village is not gonna be a bad thing. I mean, the library is already like programming space, more program space needed, I think, especially as we grow, so.
But it's supposed to be it's supposed to be our business district corridor area over there, where we want to have
Yeah, so this is,
commercial use.
yeah, but this is a different part of the economy that a lot of times can't
I'll
To
speak up.
the-
and say-
Well, again, just to be clear that you guys are not making a
Yeah.
decision tonight. as to-
I know.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's a good strategy.
The question was answered that we're not, we don't have to do it
Yes.
just because we're doing it.
Yes.
So that.
We're just
I will stop
engaged.
there.
There's no wedding.
Yes.
Kristen?
We're not even engaged. We're dating seriously. And haven't met the parents yet. So we're not like committed to this. I
We have
I
not
think
defined the
it's a great grant narrative, and I do think that's going to capture the imagination. And even if we did move forward and use it in this use, you know, the village does retain use of the property, and when it comes time to redevelop that entire quadrant of Waunakee, because we own that building at that time, we could move Create Waunakee out into another, if we would ever get past the seriously dating part. Actually, now we're just like kind of texting back and so yeah. All right. So that's my 2 cents. So
All right, so there's a motion and a second on the table. Any additional discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor?
I
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes.
feel like we need to say I do there.
Nice.
And so now you address the two items, going back to the item number 1 under public hearing. I would say, to the extent that someone's willing to do it, and I can maybe propose it, we do have the property acquisition agreement still, agenda item. And so an appropriate motion would be motion to approve the property acquisition agreement, consistent with the closed session discussion, subject to final review and approval by the village administrator and village attorney.
So moved. Is that something I can say? Okay, retweet some.
I'll second you.
All right. I think we've got a motion by Aaron and a second by Tricia. Any additional discussion on that one? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. I believe that leaves us just one left for the night.
To adjourn.
And we got a motion from
Second.
Robert and a second from Sam. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Kristen?